The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr Speaker.
Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Labor supports this bill. We have through the entire passage through the House. I just want to reiterate our congratulations to the Minister that were expressed during the committee stages for the work that's been done in shepherding this bill through its development and through the stages in the House. It is a worthwhile bill. It is a good bill. It will save taxpayers money. That's always a good thing. It offers, sir, a collective approach that will essentially allow local authorities to operate as a cooperative for the purpose of a coordinated and efficient approach to borrowing the money that they need to invest in infrastructure around this country, whether it's buildings, whether it's swimming pools, whether it's water treatment and supply, you name it. The infrastructure demands on local government are huge in many parts of the country. Many local authorities are struggling to meet those challenges, and if this local government funding agency established under this bill saves some money and makes it easier for those councils to do that, then that is a good thing. What does this bill do? It establishes the new agency, local government funding agency, and it amends a whole series of other bits of legislation in order to reduce compliance costs, but also to give confidence to the lenders who will be putting money into this bond bank, sir, and that is of critical importance. We've discussed in the various debates in this House, but also at Select Committee, the figure of 25 million, which was originally put about as a possible annual saving to local authorities. That may be a little optimistic, given that the original calculation was based on the cost of capital from a couple of years ago. But nevertheless, I think we can be confident a significant sum of money will be saved as a result of this bill going through, and we are very happy to see it go through before the end of the parliamentary term. There's an added benefit that I think we all support, and that is that this bill will make some small but useful contribution to the deepening of our capital markets. And the idea originally surfaced, I think, from the Capital Markets Development Task Force, and has since then been picked up and discussed in various places by political parties, and has attracted, I think, near universal support. What it will do is offer to the mythical mum and dad investors the chance to buy local government infrastructure bonds that will be not guaranteed by the government, sir, but backed by the highest possible credit rating that our advisors were confident will be attained by the new agency. And by golly, mum and dad investors need the things that they can invest in, that they can be confident in, and this gives them the chance to invest in the long-term future of their communities. So that, sir, is a great thing. We are particularly keen on the Labor side of the House. We're particularly keen on this bill, sir, because it is an alternative to the track of privatisation and of establishing public-private partnerships that the National Party and the ACT Party are so keen on. Labor wants to see this country build up its assets, not sell them off. And that's why we are implacably opposed to the policy that this government is taking into the election, and that is to flog off 49% of our most profitable, best performing and most valuable state-owned enterprises. We are opposed to that, as are the majority of the people of New Zealand, sir. And at the local government level, the issue about assets and privatisation is very much alive. And we saw that in the creation of the Auckland Super City, where the national government, supported by ACT, took away the right of Aucklanders to have a say through a referendum in any future proposal to privatise the ports of Auckland. And we saw, sir, in the government's amendment to the local government legislation last year, that they opened the door to 35-year contracts in the municipal water sector that would allow private sector operators to own and operate water infrastructure for periods of up to 35 years. And we had this debate many times in the House, and we are still of the view, sir, that those 35-year contracts amount to a de facto privatisation. That New Zealanders tell us, and every time they are asked, a huge majority of New Zealanders say they do not want that, sir. They do not want their water privatised. Now, the issue has died down a little bit in the last year or so, Mr. Speaker, but there are people beginning to ask whether, if the National Party is re-elected to a second term, whether or not the City of Christchurch will be compelled to sell its significant community-owned assets to fund the reconstruction of Christchurch. And the National Party, the National Government, have yet to provide a convincing answer to that question. The way that this government's going, sir, with the infrastructure needs facing Auckland, I wonder whether or not the Auckland Council will get the hard word from Stephen Joyce and from Bill English, and they'll be told that if you want to fund the city rail link, if you want to fund a world-class transport system, then you have to sell off your airport shares or sell off your ports. And I know, Mr. Speaker, I can tell from the expression on the faces of many people in this House and around New Zealand that they are completely opposed to that proposal. Labor wants to build up our assets, not sell them off, and particularly with regard to natural monopolies, which are so often the things that ACT and National want to put on the auction block. They want to sell off our energy companies that together are effectively natural monopolies. They want to sell the ports when they are effectively natural monopolies, sir, and we know that when you do that, you basically hand over a licence to print money and a licence for rent-seeking behaviour when you privatise natural monopolies, and they will almost inevitably end up in the hands of foreign owners, and we're against that, sir. So if this bill does one thing, if it can provide local authorities with a cheaper, readier source of investment capital for investing in infrastructure, then that's something I think that all New Zealanders will applaud. There is in this bill, sir, special provision for Auckland, and that acknowledges and recognises the imbalance in size between the Auckland Council and all other local authorities in New Zealand. If the local government funding agency had to accommodate all of the capital needs of Auckland, then there would be a gross imbalance, sir. And we were advised at the Select Committee, and I think everybody was happy with that advice, that Auckland Council has the capacity, it has a Treasury unit that is capable of managing that risk, and that all their international borrowing would be fully hedged, sir. The whole issue of local government debt, I think, is really interesting, and it's been brought up a number of times as this bill has gone through the House. And I just want to, before I finish, sir, just really acknowledge the work of the Auditor General's office in analysing, sir, the state of local government debt. There is a significant debt held by local authorities around New Zealand. We're looking at a 55% increase over the next decade, from $3.9 billion to $10.8 billion, sir, over the next decade. That is significant, but the Auditor General made it very clear, sir, that he did not consider that level of local authority debt to be a problem. He did not consider it to be outside the normal parameters of fiscal prudence. And I think that's noteworthy, sir, in light of the kind of justifications that were being bandied around in this Parliament, sir, about a debt crisis in local government. We don't have one. Debt is a fair and efficient way to spread the cost of infrastructure across the generations of New Zealanders who will benefit from it.
Nicky Wagner.